Hello and welcome to the Trusted Podcast. Once again, we've got a great program for you. I've got my good friend Corey. We're going to be talking about digital marketing. So, Corey, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. It's good to be here. Good talking to you again.
Yeah. So, Corey and I went to high school together, so known each other a long time. He's got an awesome digital marketing business. So, Corey, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and what makes you and your business the trusted experts in digital marketing.
Yeah, so the company is MWI. First question I always get is what does MWI stand for? And the answer is it stands for everything and nothing at the same time. we My business partner started the agency in 1999, which was like the early days of the internet. And so he came across MWI.com, a three-letter domain, which is now impossible to find. His company at the time was called Mindwire Interactive, one of his other companies that he had started when he was in college. And so he's like, oh, I may as well get that domain too. So he kind of picked it up. And now it has a different life. The whole company's different and stuff. So we say it stands for marketing with intent or marketing with innovation or marketing with integrity or marketing with, whatever. There's a lot of different ways you can go about it. The website's mwi.com. We're a full service digital marketing agency. So we do everything from website design and development to search engine optimization and all forms of paid advertising. So whether that's through paid search or paid social, we do content creation, content marketing. Really, the goal is to find awesome partners that are looking to grow and help them do that, whether it's a B2B company or a B2C company, figuring out what their growth strategy needs to look like, how digital marketing ties into that, and then building customized solutions for them. So yeah, I mean, if I were to say, the whole, trusted expert, we've got a lot of experience. We've worked with incredible brands. We've worked with big, huge brands like hotels.com and Virgin Atlantic and Marriott and a lot of big companies internationally. We've also worked with lawyers, law firms, and we've worked with dental practices. And so there's kind of the two different sides of what we do, which is the local digital marketing, which is more localized and, targeting specific areas for specific, value propositions for different businesses. But then we also have an office in Hong Kong. We do a lot of international stuff. And so those bigger brands are attracted to us for those reasons. But we've been around a long time. I've been involved since 2013 and got incredible people and looking to always find good partners and build win-win partnerships.
Awesome. Well, let's go into a little bit more detail about digital marketing because that's kind of a broad umbrella. People probably don't understand the difference between like an SEO or a Facebook advertisement or how those kind of things work together. So just give me a little bit of a breakdown of some of the different categories there are under digital marketing and how they may differ from one another.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different types of marketing agencies out there. There may be creative agencies that specifically specialize in video production or graphic design or website design, more of the creative aesthetic side of it. Um, as a everything I'm going to say, we do. So we're a full service agency. So there's a lot of different types of digital marketing. As a full service agency, we say, come here, we'll create a customized strategy. And then we've built out departments for all of these things so that there's overlap in everything. So we don't want you to be, the other option would be to have an SEO agency and have a creative agency and have a development agency, and then trying to manage as a small to medium sized business, trying to manage all of these partnerships can be a headache and can be really expensive. So anyway, so there's, the creative side of it. Search engine optimization is the way that you optimize a website and create strategies both for your website and also other content that you're putting out on the internet in order to give Google what they need from us, like signs, that you should be performing well in search engines. So when somebody does a keyword search for, law firm, Las Vegas, if you're doing your SEO right, then you should over time start competing and popping up in the search engine results for that. Paid advertising. So we call paid anything where if you have done a Google search and you see the ads or the results at the top have a little, it used to be, if you remember back in the day, it was like yellow, and it was like down the side and up, and it was very apparent to you that it was different than the other, what we call organic results. That now it's changed. Google has continued to make it less and less apparent that it's an ad, but they still have to show you. And so if you look in the top left corner, it says ad really small. And the formatting is a little different for that result. Those are pay per click ads. So you set all of that up, and you can say, I want to compete for, again, the keyword Las Vegas lawyer. And when somebody does that search, there's a whole algorithm and stuff, but you'll pop up at the top but if somebody clicks on it, you pay, versus SEO results, the organic results, you don't pay for those. You built it up organically, as we say. And then obviously there's the paid ads on search, but then there's the paid ads on Facebook and Instagram. When you're flipping through Instagram or Facebook and you see the sponsored ads or the paid advertisements, that's all the paid. So every time you click on one of those to go buy those joggers that you like, that you saw pop up on your Instagram feed, then the company pays, anywhere from, a dollar maybe to $100 if it's law in Vegas is a good example of expensive key terms. So,
Oh yeah, extremely expensive.
yeah. So that's the paid social, and then there's the more what we call organic social media management, which is creating content calendars and doing daily posts in order to build audiences and build communities. Um, and then the other side of all of that is what we call conversion rate optimization, which is optimizing your social, your website, these ad campaigns, and building out funnels that are geared towards conversions. Because the thing is we could find a way to drive 100,000 people to your website daily, um, but it would be worth nothing if 0% of that converted, right? It could be garbage traffic. So what we want to do is find ways to create customer experiences that yield conversions at the end of this. I'd rather drive 10 people to your website and have 5 of them convert than 100 people and have one convert, right? So um, that's kind of the gist of it, right? It's building out strategies from a high level and then putting those strategies into practice with very specific service offerings in order to drive performance and drive growth.
Okay, I like that. Good breakdown. Let's talk mistakes. What are 2 to 3 biggest mistakes you see people or business owners do, with their digital marketing?
I think the biggest, and it's kind of another umbrella thing because there's a lot of mistakes you can make within this, but the biggest is that they start without a plan. They say, okay, well, I've read or I've heard, or I heard this guy's doing really good because he's doing digital marketing, or oh man, this guy seems to be doing great. This girl seems to be doing great because she's doing social media, whatever. And so they think, I'm just going to start doing it. I'm just going to start posting. I'm going to start creating content. I'm going to start, which is fine. I would say that's better than nothing, but they don't take a step back, do some competitive research, do some market research to really understand what people are searching for and what the market's saying. Um, what I always recommend is just saying, okay, again, I keep using, a law firm in Vegas as an example, but if you were looking at this and you said, okay, I want to create a really good digital marketing strategy, rather than just posting whatever on Facebook every day, just for the sake of doing it, or rather than just like writing a random short blog post or whatever, you would do the research first, again, looking at competitors, looking at search volumes for different things, looking at what's trending in your area, and then identifying what I usually recommend is 2 or 3 key value propositions that, based off of research, people are actually interested in, value that you're gonna be able to provide to an end user at some point. Figure out what those value propositions are, and then figure out where your user's hanging out. Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it YouTube? Is it search engines? Is it publications? Wherever that might be, and say, okay, now how can I create content or strategies that are going to reach these people on these platforms they're at and identify these key value propositions. As soon as you can bridge that gap, then you spend less time, you're much more efficient because you have a plan in place and you say, okay, my content calendar this month, for example, I know that I want to create content revolving around these 3 key value propositions. So I'm just going to do 5 posts for each one of these for the month, and that's 15 posts. And I know where to post those because I did my research to see where people are searching for this type of stuff or where these audiences or communities are. And so just doing that legwork up front and doing a little bit of research and making a plan creates efficiencies and creates, much better return on investment in the long run. It might take a little more time up front, and before it would have taken a lot longer to do all of those things. But now with the internet, watch a couple YouTube videos, do a little bit of research, and it's pretty easy.
Okay. Any other
Easy is
big
a bad word.
mistakes?
Um, yeah, I would, not looking for help for again, especially for small businesses, small to medium sized businesses. being a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of small businesses are in the mindset of like, I need to do everything. And your digital marketing, building that footprint, that digital footprint, as we call it, is so important. There's few things that are more important if you're looking for longevity. Um, get some help, right? Even so, if it's hiring an agency and finding a one that's within budget, if it's hiring an individual, if it's hiring an intern, a college student that's studying marketing and saying, "Look, I need you 10 hours a week to help with this." Um, again, so and then you get them to implement those strategies that we talked about and putting together those plans. It makes a big difference. I see a lot of people try for a long time to do it, but then they look back 2 years later and say, I didn't give that any attention, and I wasted a lot of time and energy that could have been much much better used. I would say those are a couple of the biggest mistakes.
Yeah, I think it's like that with anything. As solopreneurs, obviously they're tight on expenses, but they try to wear every hat. 'Cause they're like, oh, I don't want to create all these extra expenses. I want to keep everything for myself. Well, then you're gonna also create extra work for yourself and never build that lifestyle that you want, and it really
Yeah, so it's
defeats
finding
your
that.
first goal.
Yeah, yeah, it's finding the balance. It's like, obviously, you gotta stay within budget. Obviously, you don't wanna spend a ton of money, but there's plenty of help out there and ways to get it done on a budget. And then there's ways to, once you've grown past that, to get it done for a lot more money and maybe have it be more effective. But regardless, I always recommend, having a resource for marketing.
Yeah, and then the other thing is, make sure you're measuring that ROI. Are you actually getting results from that? And if not, then obviously you need to make a change. But there should be tangible results there. Anybody who does digital marketing is going to be able to show you, hey, you got this many clicks, you this many phone calls from it, this many whatever. And if they're not, then they're probably someone you want to stay away from.
Yeah, definitely. Accountability is huge in what we do. I love that part of it, is that we set up very, very specific analytics tracking and goal trackings to the point where I love that there's nowhere for us to hide, right? So that's another piece of advice. If you don't have Google Analytics set up on your website and you're not tracking that, even if it's just simply traffic and conversions, like you can just set it up in 5 minutes and it's easy. But then you can go into that tool, you can learn it, watch some YouTube videos, and really set up some specific goal tracking. So you say, okay, when somebody comes to our website and they watch that homepage video, they compare, if they watch it for 30 seconds, they convert at this percentage versus if they don't, they convert at this percentage. So you can start to make good, educated business decisions based on what to do with content and where to put it and how to use it. So yeah, you're spot on.
Okay, let's talk, actionable things. What's something that a small business owner can do on their own, relatively quickly to start seeing some impact?
Well, that's a good one. We'll piggyback off what we just said. Make sure that your website has a good look and feel. Again, easy to tweak, pretty inexpensive to tweak if not. Make sure that you have Google Analytics set up on your website so that you're tracking when people are coming, where they're coming from, how they're engaging with the website. And then, like I said, take that information, take the research that you do all of that research up front, and then put together a solid plan to try to see those numbers go up. A lot of times, businesses will come to us that have never set up analytics or did once upon a time and have never looked at it. And I'm like, man, if like a generation or two of entrepreneurs could look at the ability you have to get data to help your business grow, they would be so envious and so jealous. And we have these tools at our disposal that really are just kind of gold mines of data and analytics and information that can really help you make educated business decisions that so often people do not even look at because they're scared of it, because they're intimidated by it, because they think they don't understand it. But again, go to YouTube and just search how to use Google Analytics and find a recent video because it changes frequently. But it's pretty. It can be very complicated, and we pay people a lot of money to know a lot about it to do a really good job with it. But at the same time, there's very high level, simplistic ways to use it to make sure you're leveraging it. Yeah, I would highly recommend those. Getting some of these tools set up and then actually looking at it. Again, it comes down to planning too. Just say, look, once a month, I'm going to put on my calendar at the beginning of the month this week for an hour in the morning. I'm just going to pull up and mess around in my analytics and see what's happening with my website, see who my users are, so that I can make better educated business decisions for the following month.
Okay, I like it. So we already talked about, as far as, red flags of people to stay away from if they're not showing you analytics and not willing to show you what they're able to do. What are some things that people should look for when they're trying to find somebody to help them with digital marketing? What's some good things they should look for? What's some red flags they should look out for?
Yeah, the red flag is any sort of guarantee. Um, And the reason I say that is because a lot of agencies will, or a lot of individuals or something will kind of flaunt this like, "Oh, I guarantee you're gonna rank for these keywords within 6 months of work." There's just no way to do that. And the reason why is because as good of a marketing agency is, or good as an individual is, they don't have a crystal ball, and they have no idea what Google is gonna continue to change or how Facebook's gonna evolve. These algorithms that they use to monitor all of this are changing constantly. So, I love providing case studies and examples of what has worked as an agency that's really good versus guaranteeing anything in the future. And we're so confident in what we do that we don't shy away from saying, "No, I can't guarantee anything, but I can show you what we do." So I would look for references, actually calling a customer. We have such incredible clients at MWI that are always up to bat for us, that have worked with us for whether it's a year or whether it's 7 years, you know. That's the biggest, you know, sign to me that we're doing something right is when we have a big deal on the table and a client, we call a client and they say, "I would be happy to give you a rave review. I'd get on the phone, I'll do whatever," right? So look for reviews, look for testimonials, and then look for case studies. A good agency or a good individual that says, "I know how to build beautiful websites, let me do it for you for 10 grand." You should be able to say, "Okay, show me a bunch of websites you built." And if they can't, that's a red flag. And if they can and you don't like the website, then go find somebody else because there's a lot of options, right? Um, and then, yeah, on the marketing side, if they say, "Oh, yeah, man, I could kill it for you on your Facebook ads," it's like, "Okay, let me see what you've done in the past." Even if it's just a spreadsheet that shows me some success you've seen with clients, something real simple is fine. It doesn't need to be the most beautiful case study design. But and it's funny that I'm saying this because I remember in the early days, honestly, getting a company off the ground. I hated when people asked for case studies and testimonials because I was like, I don't have them yet. But I try. So you have to early on. You may have to find different ways to do that, right? You may have to. For a long time, we did like no contracts, and we did guarantees on, money back guarantees if you're not satisfied with the customer service, that type of stuff, just to get your foot in the door. Um, but, any sort of validation you can get that's not just a salesperson on a phone or an individual telling you what they can do. Any sort of external validation is really important because there's a lot of different ways to do what we do, and there's a lot of people that don't do it well, and there's a lot that do. So you wanna make sure that you check those boxes before you, start working with somebody.
It's always so interesting to me. It doesn't matter who we have on the show. You know, the theme around how to find the right people is always the same. Check the reviews, check their work. You know, if there is a site that has that they need to be licensed, check that. But like that's it. It's like the three main things. Ask around, get reviews, and get references, and then go talk to multiple people. It shouldn't just be one and done. It's you need to find somebody who's going to fit with you because I think personality is a big part of it too. Whoever your account rep is, you want to have a relationship where you can call them up and say, hey, this isn't working, and they're going to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And find a way to fix it.
Yeah, and so on the other side of that, if you're the solopreneur, whether you're, a designer or a lawyer or a dentist or whatever, like you're doing your own thing, it's the same. You need to be doing it on your end as well as finding those validators, finding those ways to build credibility, so that when you're on the other side of that and people are looking if they should work with you, you've taken the time to do that. There's nothing more important in my experience than social proof, as we call it. So, like somebody finding your law firm and then looking at your reviews and looking at your website, looking at your social media to make sure it's up to date or whatever, and just to recognize, okay, this is good. Like that's what we call social proof. The other thing, again, credibility, borrowed credibility, like getting other people to say you're good, getting featured in local newspapers, getting doing some type of PR, anything like that. Like one of the big growth spurts that we saw at MWI was when we started, we had opportunities to get featured in Forbes and be kind of mentioned as experts, and that was like a game changer. As soon as I built that into our sales process to be able to say, "Oh yeah, you probably saw us on Forbes," even if I didn't know if they had. Like, but just to drop that name and have MWI next to Forbes. I mean, now that's turned into we've been featured in over 200 publications and done a lot of speaking and stuff. So it kind of builds on itself. But any sort of credibility like that can just kind of put people at ease, and it can go a long way. And then I love what you said. We're all about, like I said before, win-win partnerships, like really having an abundance mentality in the sense that if it's not a good fit, we're not going to try to get your business because we know there's a lot of businesses out there that are a good fit. And you need to have that perspective as the company that's trying to gain the business, but also the individual looking for it. There's make sure it is a good, solid partnership that you gel well together, We just had a company called Goodr, Goodr, that reached out to us, or I think one of our sales development reps reached out to them. They're a big company. They're amazing. That basically what they do. They're one of the hope brands that we like to work with, as we call them. But they basically go to hotels or restaurants or resorts or whatever, and they buy, obviously at a big discount, all of the leftovers food that they have at the end of every day, show up with these big trucks, they load it all up, they pay, and then they go to homeless shelters, they go, to foster centers or whatever, and they take the food and they, give it back. And so it's a cool business. They've grown a ton. They're nationwide now, and they came to us, or we got in touch with them after they had already interviewed and gone through the whole process with two other agencies, and we're kind of struggling to pull the trigger, and we just happened to get in touch with them at the right time. Shout out to our amazing sales development reps, but they we're a company that believes in hope, that has a podcast that I do called the Hope Strategy Podcast, that looks for hope brands that are doing good in the world and that we can build strong win-win relationships with. And the second they heard that, it was like, it wasn't just lip service. They saw the work that we've done. They heard us talk about it. They listened to an episode or two of our podcast and show, and like they started realizing, oh, this fits so well with our culture and our identity as a company, that even though these other agencies may be good, let's do our due diligence. They spoke to two customers of ours. They looked at case studies. They really put us through the ringer, being the third one to come up to bat. But we earned the business, and it's been an amazing partnership because it was that synergy, that win-win, and it's critical. I love that you said that.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for any business owner. I always, a lot of my business is relationships with financial advisors or CPAs, and I always tell them, hey, look, I know I'm not the only one that's on your list of people to call. And I actually like that because I know I'm not the right fit for everybody. Some people are going to want someone older, someone's going to want a female, someone's going to want, different personality, whatever it is. You got to make the right decision of, what's going to be a good relationship for you. Because if you don't think they're a good relationship for me, chances are they're not, and it's not going to be a win-win, and it's not going to be, a great relationship for me to work with them. So I want to make sure they're taken care of, and that it's somebody that they actually can have that long-term relationship, and because an estate plan is something that takes place over your whole life, and then hopefully you take care of their I'm there to take care of the family afterwards, so it definitely
Yeah.
has to be that way.
Yeah, and nobody likes desperation, and the other thing is it w when it's genuine, people can feel that, and they can sense this confidence and this level of authenticity that's important in business. Whereas when it's disingenuine, and you've had those conversations as well, where somebody's like, "Oh, I'm just looking out for you," and da da da. The salesman that's trying to get you into the used car, which is the kind of the typical cliche. But you can sense that, go with your gut on that, like, is this truly somebody that has that mentality? And when they do, and you can build that type of confidence into it, it really helps, people feel comfortable and make decisions to work with you.
Yep, totally agree. All right, anything else? I mean, we've covered a broad range today, but any other really key important things about digital marketing or advice to business owners?
I mean, we've covered quite a bit. I think no, I mean, I don't know if you have any other questions specifically. I think that probably one of the bigger things that we touched on that I really see is super important is that figure out that credibility. Figure out how, when somebody finds you online, they find your website, that they're impressed. You've got 5 or 6 seconds for somebody to either bounce and never come back, or to really take a look. Make sure you've got your social media links on your website, so when they find you, they're going to click through that. If you haven't tried to find any sort of ways to get reviews from your customers on Google or Yelp or whatever it might be, make sure you're doing that. That's a game changer. And then if you can find any way to get featured or talked about in any sort of outside publication, like I said, whether it's a local news thing or a review of some sort, or a blog, whatever, anything that you can do to get those as seen on type stickers on your website, really give people the sense that, okay, this person knows what they're talking about, they know what they're doing, and I don't need to look much further. All of that's really important to a solopreneur, a small business that's trying to get on the map and trying to build that type of credibility with their customers.
Awesome. Well, how can people get in touch with you? I know you said mwi.com. Is that the best way, or is there a phone number, an email they should reach out to if they want to learn a little bit more and see if you're a good fit for them?
Yeah, so mwi.com, easy to remember. Go on there. There's a phone number. There's a form you can fill out. like I said, if you're a small business looking to build strategies, if you're a medium-sized business that's looking to scale up, the strategies that you've already put into place and wanting to make them better, that's what we do. We do a really good job, and like I said earlier, we'll let you know if it's a good fit, and we'd love to work with people. The other place that I would really push right now is the passion project that I've been working on for the last 6 or 7 months, which is that podcast. The website is hopestrategypodcast.com. You go search anywhere we listen to podcasts. It's the Hope Strategy Podcast. We've talked to incredible, amazing people, hearing their backgrounds and their life stories. And really, the idea is let's hear the human experience from people that have been successful in life, and that's not just financially successful. There's people we've talked to that have overcome insane trials. Nobody's ever heard of them, but they've overcome intense trials and done amazing things. And we're just trying to get those stories out there. We've also talked to very influential people with big names that you would recognize. But it turned out it started as a passion project in early 2020, just with the world was a little bleak and there wasn't much hope to be found. And me and my business partner said, we tend to see things with an abundance mentality. We tend to have a positive attitude, and maybe we should start a podcast like we've been talking about, but just try to talk to people about hope. And it's slowly turning into this more like passion project and this journey to identify what hope is and how it works and how to implement specific strategies in your life foundationally, so that as you build whatever it is you're doing, you can have hope and optimism and ambition as you do so, whether that's with personal trials or business or whatever it might be. So again, that's the Hope Strategy Podcast. We've got a form fill on our website there. If you think you'd make a good guest or know somebody that would be, we'd love to hear from anybody there as well.
Yeah, I can vouch for the podcast. It's pretty awesome. Some of the names and people you've been able to get in touch with, and their stories are just incredible. And I think it's one of those things that it helps, humanize everything that we do. I think right now there's a lot of people, or just in general, I think we've been kind of disingenuine. I don't know if that's the right word, but just we feel like because we're not having that social contact over and over again, we don't have that connection with people. And anytime we can hear those stories and realize, they're real people, they've had trials, and try to look at everybody that way and then have that hope and light inside makes a big difference.
And you add on top of that the amount of divisiveness that we're facing on a daily basis, and so what I've really learned from this is, this last week I interviewed a woman named she's a minister. Her name's Minister Only Love. That's literally her name. ONL, I think EILOVE. Her parents named her Only Love, and then she became this amazing minister and stuff. But um, she is an African American minister, multiple master's degrees, an honorary doctorate. She has traveled the world, and her specialty is um, finding let's see how I word it. African American Jewish ties to the Bible. So, like, if anybody's familiar with the Bible and how like Jesus went to Egypt after he was born, so we didn't get, like and she noticed like this trend throughout the Bible of like people going back and forth between Africa and Israel, basically. Anyway, so it was kind of interesting. I didn't know how the conversation was going to go, but as I talked to her, and as she's like on the ground in Manhattan, working with homeless people, trying to help people understand like the history of the Bible. But then also she's like on the front lines for a lot of movements, and a lot like as a minister and as a community organizer who's like helping with Black Lives Matter stuff or whatever her beliefs are, right? Like these are things that can be so polarizing, and you hear them, and I myself hear them, and I'm like, oh, I probably wouldn't get along with that person. But when you just like break that down and talk to somebody human to human that's not like clouded with all of the divisiveness that is thrown in your face at all times today, I grew to as weird as it sounds, I grew to love this lady over an hour and a half conversation and recognize that we were the same, that we were two people that were just trying to do our best, that we're trying to, and to find the hope in those types of communications and have these conversations is, like you said, we're not getting that as much. And not only are we not getting that because we're stuck inside or not, not able to see people that we normally would, not able to go places we normally would. Not only is that happening, but then it's compounded by, oh yeah, and by the way, you're all supposed to hate each other, which is ridiculous and not true. And there's no hope in that. And so you realize that, you know, as human beings, we really agree on 98% of things. There might be 2 or 3% of things that we don't. But when you're only hearing the 2 or 3% of things that you're not supposed to agree on, um, bad things happen. And so when you realize there's just so much that we do agree on, and as human beings and as people just trying to do our best, it makes a big difference. So yeah, again, like I said, it's been a blessing and an honor to have these conversations, to really learn from people and recognize that there is a lot of hope out there. And so even though it's a passion project that you make zero money on and you just put a lot of time and energy into, it's something that we love to do, and I would love it if people could go on and listen.
Yeah, yeah, I'll definitely put a link to that in the show notes as well. Corey, thank you. Really appreciate you being on the show and sharing your passion both on the business side and on the hope strategy side. You can definitely feel it.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate it.
Okay, to our listeners, excuse me, as always, please like, subscribe, give us a review, let us know how we're doing, let us know who we should talk to next. Always looking for great people to have on the show. And with that, we'll talk to you next time.